movie, you have entered Jabba's palace for the first time and you realize that it has been converted to a boba shop.
Start your sublight engines. It's time for RuPaul's Pod Race, a queer Star Wars podcast. Welcome back to another week of chaos. I'm Klaudia. My pronouns are she, her. You can find me on social media at Klaudia Says, K-A-L-U-D-I-A Says. My gender of the week is the Greater Galactic Obi-Wan polycule. Obi-Wan is one of the most shippable characters. He deserves a lot of love, and he has gotten a lot of love, and I don't think that that's exclusive.
My name is Ollie. My pronouns are they, them. You can find me on most social media at Ollie Fresh with a PH. And my gender is kind of related because my gender is fruit magnet Anakin Skywalker. That man, every single person around that man is a member of the LGBTQ plus community. And I do believe that he is an overzealous ally to the point where it's annoying. So I do believe there's a point where Cody is like, oh my God, here comes General Hetty here to ruin the day. He's like, oh, Rex, so sorry you have to work with General Hetty all the time.
I love the idea of Anakin coming over the intercom and being of the whole fucking ship and being like, hello, LGBTQ community.
I imagine
hate that.
He's like, oh my God, yes, queen, go off, slay. And Obi-Wan's like, don't ever say any of those words again.
Anakin is your straight friend that's like trying to educate everybody about what LGBT means, but he's wrong about all of them.
I just imagine him saying yes, queen, slay, but as Vader over the
No,
he's very supportive even as Vader.
Hey, so Klaudia, you can't spoil Thrawn alliances like that when Noah hasn't read the book. So my name is Mel. I use they, them pronouns. You can find me on TikTok at Grunkle Rex. And I am GSA teacher sponsor Obi-Wan because he has that vibe.
I think also he's one of those people who the students are like, is he just a really enthusiastic ally, or is he like, one of us?
I'm Noah. My pronouns are he, him. You can find me on TikTok at the Jewish Jedi. And my gender this week is Lego Obi-Wan Kenobi's fruity little picture of him and Cody. For context, the new trailer for the Lego Star Wars game just dropped, and one of like the first frames in that trailer is an Obi-Wan sand hut on Tatooine, and he does have a framed photo of him and Cody drinking together, and it's everything to me.
I'm Jess. My pronouns are they, them. You can find me on TikTok and Twitter at Kawaii Jessyo, and my gender this week is actually General Hetty. So,
oh my God, we match. I love
that everyone has infected the minds of this podcast.
What is Star Wars if not Obi-Wan being queer persevering? Like, God. This is our first episode post-Bad Batch. And if you can't tell, while this has always been a queer podcast, we are taking the time for this to be our first episode, hopefully of many, dedicated to queerness and Star Wars. Obviously, this was not the first time nor the last that we will discuss this, but we wanted to take a little bit of time to discuss that. So, to begin, let's just go around and what does queerness in Star Wars mean to you, mean to your identity, etc. for each one of y'all?
I can go first. I have been a Star Wars fan for a while, I'd say, since I was probably a baby. The first Star Wars movie that I really remember seeing was Attack of the Clones in 2002. I was a very small child, and I remember so clearly the arena scene. Whenever Obi-Wan's on the screen, I was like, he's just cool. I want what he has, and which I now I'm looking back, I'm like, that was gender envy. So I do think I think that was the first instance of me ever having that feeling. And I think I do still have it occasionally, but I can diagnose it now. But I do genuinely believe that Star Wars has played a very deep part in my journey, as a LGBTQ member. And I think that when I see, so many gay people and, trans people talking about how important Star Wars is to them, it just makes me happy because I'm like, oh, it's not just me. It's we all, something about Star Wars. it's here for us. I mean, it's not sometimes, but we see ourselves in it, and I think that's really cool.
So I can go next. Fun fact about me. So the first Star Wars movies that I watched, and I do think that I said this before, were the prequel movies. Like those were coming out when I was a kid. I was introduced to them by a lesbian couple that was a family friend of mine.
Powerful.
And my little gay moment did start happening when I saw Obi-Wan and Jango interact in Attack of the Clones, because they looked at each other and I was like, I don't know what's going on here, but I like this a lot. And then years later, I'm like, that's because you like men. I hate to break this to you, because that whole scene, and then there's the other scene where Obi-Wan's hair gets all like flustered in the arena scene, and I'm like, okay, I might be into dudes, unfortunately. So that movie was an awakening for me. On top of that, I will say that like seeing the queer fandom that has sprung up around Star Wars, I know we complain a lot about the community around these pieces of media, and sometimes with good reason, but genuinely like the queer community that I get to interact with because of Star Wars is very fun to be a part of, and I do deeply enjoy it. And that's, I think, why I keep like gravitating back towards this.
I do like that our first, all of our genders were Obi-Wan centric, and our first two answers to the question of what does queerness in Star Wars mean to you did involve the man himself.
Wasn't Obi-Wan Luke's queer elder in the first movie?
I can't.
Tosche Station. It's a gay bar.
Not Uncle Owen telling Luke he can't go to Tosche Station being slang for stop being gay.
Oh,
Owen
really?
would never.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, Owen Lars, I love you. I'm so sorry, King. I'm so sorry the ugly ass bitch would say that about you. The bitch is me.
So I did. The first two hosts also said something about Obi-Wan. I have something different. But it is Obi-Wan adjacent. The first moment I had gender envy as a child was Qui-Gon Jinn. There was something about seeing the Phantom Menace and seeing that gentleman with long hair and facial hair that I was like, tell me more about that. What's the deal? Like just seeing some dude being like, yeah, and like he's just weirdly crunchy, and I was deeply into that. So that definitely speaks to me. And I think also there is something that is so inherently queer about Luke Skywalker's journey, as like a queer coming of age. Like I constantly think about coming of age in general, and then also just like, because Luke has like this, like, he's kind of, how do I put this? He has this radical softness about him that is very fruity. There's something about that makes me cry every time I think about him looking at the binary sunset and being like, I'm a rural gay leaving my hometown and like making something of myself, which is another reason like why I love Eli Vanto, is the same exact thing, except for unfortunately that gentleman does join the military industrial complex, and that's not very sexy of him.
To be fair, Luke did want to do the same thing.
He did, but he didn't.
Luckily,
is the thing.
Luckily, queer older Obi-Wan was there to help.
not I do like the idea of like he's like at there's like the army recruiter office, and Obi-Wan is just like, fuck off, don't do it.
Well, I'm like, a more recent Star Wars fan, so I don't have like deep childhood connection. I've said this before, but I guess one like kind of like queer adjacent, well, because I was gonna say all queer people, but I think just like a lot of queer people, it's not all of them, but like there's a lot of found family in Star Wars. So I do very much love that. It's very gay people also trying to find people who like care about them and will love them. So like, yeah, found family is very important to me. And the fact that every single Star Wars has that, with the original trilogy, like Luke finding Leia and Han, and Lando and Chewie, that's their little found family. And obviously General Hetty and Obi-Wan and Ahsoka and all the clones. And then, of course, Rebels with the Ghost Crew. I love the Ghost Crew so much. The Ghost Crew, none of them are straight. I just want to say that right now.
Period.
So I guess that's my whole thing. It's just Star Wars and Found Family. Oh, also the fucking Bad Batch. Why did I forget about them? My mind's trying to purge the Bad Batch out of my system. Sorry.
Jess has blocked the Bad Batch from their fucking memory.
So for me, for those who don't know, I did come out of the closet a little later after college. I thought I was straight for a very long time. Oh boy. But I have always been a Star Wars fan. I always talk about how I literally don't know who showed me the movies because my family are like Star Trek fans. I literally don't know. I did grow up watching the prequels. I do make jokes now going back of being like, I do believe that the combination of Anakin, Padme, and Obi-Wan contributed to this. All of this. But in a practical sense, when I was graduating from college was when the sequels and the anthology movies and everything was coming out. And I was, not to like drop some personal lore or anything, but I graduated a little early from college. I moved to New York City by myself. And I believe that was the second time that the Clone Wars was on Netflix, and I was like, oh fuck, I've actually never watched the Clone Wars. So I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna watch all of it. I'm depressed, I'm moving here by myself, and Star Wars is what I come to for comfort when shit's hard. So I watched all of the Clone Wars. At the time there was only 6 seasons. And I watched that in like my first year living alone, graduating from college, all that kind of stuff, whatever. So it's been very important to me. And I was also very, very, very involved in the newly renewed Star Wars fandom online. And I've, for those who know, have been involved in online fandom. It has quite shaped a lot about me for some time. So as I was realizing that, oh, I'm a queer, that's actually when Rogue One was coming out. Rogue One is now one of my favorite movies, one of my favorite Star Wars movies. Rogue One was the first time I ever like held a girl's hand. I was at that fucking movie. I found out Carrie Fisher died when I was on a vacation with my first girlfriend. Star Wars is literally very much tied with a lot of gay shit in my life. And so then, I caught up on Rebels, and then Rebels was airing, a lot of stuff was happening. All the characters that I identify with have been a part of my like coming out as an adult journey, and have been also tied with all the bad shit that's happened to me since then. So it's been like intricately tied with my life in that sense. Which is why people are like, dear God, what is wrong with you? Why is your favorite character Maul? We don't have time to unpack all of that. But yeah, it's actually like deeply tied to like shit in my life. Also, Mel, the thing you brought up about the inherent queerness of the Luke staring into the sunset thing. There's actually somebody who made a comic on Tumblr. It was posted in a couple other places where they're like, they came out later in life, whatever, they'd always been a Star Wars fan, but they rewatched the original films again after they had come out, and it hit very differently, and I had the same experience. And now I always make the joke that the original trilogy is the gayest trilogy. Not that it has the gayest characters, not that it's the gayest movie, whatever, but it's that A New Hope specifically is the gayest movie. There is something about the gay yearning of the binary sunset that hits in a way I cannot explain. I can't deal with. So yeah, I had that same similar experience of like, oh, I rewatched the original trilogy, and now I'm a different person. So yeah, it's very personally tied to like who I am as a queer person, which is also like deeply troubling and problematic because now it's like a corporate product, and like queerness is inherently radical, and I've also been like figuring out my politics and whatever. So there's a lot to unpack there, but we don't have time to unpack all of that.
That was beautifully said, and I really appreciate you telling us all of that. No, I completely agree. And I think also to what you were saying, I think that for us as younger Star Wars fans who like grew up during the prequel era, we and just like I think that the climate of the world and the way in which gay people are perceived was very different than like a lot of the original trilogy like fans who were queer and growing up during that era. And so representation to us and like our identity as queer people is going to be different, but that doesn't mean it has less value, if you catch my drift. And I love that this series resonates with people, and especially queer people. And it like, I feel like there are queer people who enjoy every single era of Star Wars, and like, sure, like we have our critiques of it, but like, hello, we be bitches, you know? We complain about shit, which is not necessarily inherent to the queer experience, but I would argue kind of actually. Anyways,
love things critically.
Yeah, and having to hold like all of that in your heart is something that is so queer, of like being like, I love this thing, but it also like actively sometimes hurts me, i.e. Tarkin. I'm sorry I had to mention the man because he is the reason that this podcast exists.
Usually we do Q&As in the second half, but again, we're kind of getting our feet under us since the Bad Batch is now over. But yeah, we get our Q&As from TikTok, but you're also welcome to reach out to us via email or any other social media. So please feel free to. Our first one today comes from Sage Sindula on TikTok. And they ask, on the topic of queerness in Star Wars, what characters do you believe are queer coded and what characters do you believe are queer baiting? And if you guys don't mind, I will answer this question first because I have an answer. I think that there are multiple examples of this throughout the like Star Wars as a whole, but I'm going to take the two I think that probably mean the most to me. Queer baiting, I think, is Finn Poe. I love it to death. It was honestly like, I have been a longtime fan of Star Wars, but I was never really involved in like the fandom until the sequels came out. And I think there was a huge resurgence in the fandom when the sequels came out. But I was so invested. Fun little lore drop. I think I've talked about this on the podcast before, but I did see Force Awakens in the theaters 8 times. So that's a fun little fact about me. But those two characters mean so much to me, and seeing them constantly put them in the situations that they did made me feel a little upset. But it's definitely like they were being like, yeah, we're gonna do this just enough. And I think they're a perfect example of queer baiting, and one that I will argue is queer coding. And I will argue this to the moon and back, is Kallus and Zeb. I believe this fully because their stories are so intertwined. Both of them are their own individual characters, and their ending, like, you can't look at that ending and be like, they're just besties. Like I have said
couple
before,
of dudes being guys.
That is fucking Zeb bringing Kallus home. That is like bringing your partner home to your family.
Yeah,
and introducing them.
And I also think too, I mean, we all know, maybe we don't, but Icon, one of my favorite men, Steve Blum, who does voice Zeb and half of the stormtroopers in the show. If TK421 was in Rebels, he probably would have been voiced by Steve Blum.
No, they would have found a way to get Mark Thompson in.
But he has said, like, there's one line he said during a panel where they were like, oh, well, like, all these different characters got all this stuff at the ending. He's like, yeah, and I got my man, talking about Zeb and Kallus, which I think about all the time. And Dave is also, Dave Filoni, for those of you who don't know Dave, like we do, has also said, like, yeah, no, it's intentionally kind of left ambiguous. So, like, I think that's queer coding. Sorry, I talk a really long time about Kallus and Zeb. I just care a lot about them.
I so you actually stole mine because I was gonna say Finn Poe in terms of queer baiting, because they are kind of like a textbook example of what that term means. I will say for queer coding, I think that Luke Skywalker is pretty much queer coded with like every single person that he meets. I don't have like a specific ship in mind when I say that. He's just a very queer character. Right from the get-go, like Mel and Klaudia were both saying, like the binary sunset scene is a very queer scene in general. Like that's how it feels. And his character is very much like, he's fruity. And not to like flex or whatever, that Mark Hamill commented on my TikTok about about me being like, isn't it great that you said that Luke could be gay? And he was like, yes, it is. So I mean, to have him be like accepting and not endorsing, but like saying, yes, I really like that fans do this with this character. Luke is super queer-coded, and I really appreciate that. And I think that's a big part of why I may have hashtag related to him during the entire run of the original trilogy.
No, I just wanted to really quickly say that, wow, Luke becomes Rey's queer elder just like Obi-Wan before him.
Qui-Gon was that to Obi-Wan.
What is the Jedi Order if not just queers mentoring each other?
It's called the Disaster Lineage, which is false. It's just that one heterosexual man in Anakin Skywalker ruined this whole line of queer elders.
I did just want to say, actually, to that point of I think I would even argue that Luke's narrative in the sequel trilogy is very indicative and invocative of, that's the same fucking word, of the queer experience, especially like him being a queer elder after a generation of his people were decimated, having to pick up the pieces and be like, hey,
I've thought that about Kanan Jarrus as well.
Absolutely. And just like having to deal with the consequences of that and then fucking up and being like, God damn, I don't know what to do with myself. I'm going to fucking leave. And then Rey being like this like beacon of hope and like, we are not the end, we are simply the beginning of something bigger. Oh my god, I'm gonna cry thinking about that. What the fuck?
I also think on that note, Luke's like characterization in the sequel movies, one thing I really like about it is he feels this burden to be like the perfect shining example of what like this type of person should be, and he isn't. And I feel like that's a really important thing. Like, fucking Mel just typed queer elder moment in the goddamn chat. But yeah, no, I mean, I think it is something that at least the other queer people that I've talked to sort of feel as like, how do you guide that next group of people? And I honestly love that it is Rey, who is, I think Rey's a lesbian. I said what I said. I think we all pretty much believe that on this podcast.
No, she's a bisexual.
That's fair. That's fair. Bisexual Rey is valid. Bisexual Rey is valid.
She's got two hands, one for Rose and one for Finn. Wake up, people.
Or one for Rose, one for Jana.
That's so true.
That's so true, bestie.
And they can go on double dates with Finn and Poe.
Rose has two hands, one for Rey,
one for Rey and one for Jana.
Enough.
They're just a little circle.
What is the sequel trilogy if not a circle of queers holding hands?
Okay, I do like the idea of the sequels just being like a really like not toxic polycule, because I think altogether they are fine, but like just the context in which they are in is very toxic.
I love the idea that it's a giant polycule and also Kylo Ren, who is like on the sidelines there.
It's like, hi, my name is Poe. This is my boyfriend, Finn. This is his girlfriend, Rey. This is her girlfriend, Rose. And this is her girlfriend, Jana. And this is our baby, BB-8.
Okay, I did have a fucking point to make.
Can I just quick say this before you finish your point? Kylo Ren disrupted the polycule. Next question.
Rey just had a weird moment of comp het with Kylo Ren. And then she remembered, wait, no, I'm not actually into men, sorry.
Rey goes back to the polycule after the events of the Rise of Skywalker and is like, sorry, I had a near-death experience that made me experience compet again.
The idea of people who like Ben Solo should have lived. I do like the idea of him living and coming back and being like, I am entitled to join your polycule now. and then Poe having to be like, girl, you get out of here. I feel like Poe's the one who they're like, can you go take care of him? And he's like, fine.
Poe knew him as a child, and he's like, no, get the fuck out of here.
He's like, I will channel your mother and tell you to get the fuck out.
They add Kylo to the polycule group chat because Rey's like, guys, please. And then a week in, they're all like, this is a bad idea. And they make a second group chat without him, but nobody tells him about it.
No. He's like,
so the thing that I like about the sequels is that it is a young queer person, Rey, who reignites Luke's hope for other people to be like stable and to exist and to fulfill the thing that he feels is his role in the galaxy. We did get sidetracked talking about the fucking polycule.
Don't we always?
Is this podcast if not polycules persevering?
I did want to say, you were saying that, that's what Rey's thing. something I love about Star Wars is like, oh, it's like poetry, it rhymes, love. It's always the same thing over and over again. We see Ahsoka and Kanan have very similar journeys of losing their people and their entire culture and then having to teach the new generation. I feel like that's probably what the Ahsoka series is going to be about. She's also very much involved in all of the Children of the Force stuff. We have to see Ahsoka grow up, and then like, you know, there's a palpable moment in an episode of Rebels where Ahsoka and Kanan look at each other and they're like, oh, the whole Jedi Order used to do this and now it's on us now. And I was like, oh, I'm getting really emotional here. Like, I can't do it. Like, and
I do like the idea of Kanan and Ahsoka looking at each other and being like, are you gay? Yeah, are you? Like, wait, no, we're Jedi. That's what I meant to say.
We're Jedi.
Gay or Jedi.
Ahsoka is that, like, you know, and has to keep being that, like, you know, Din being like, I don't know how to raise a gay child, can you? And she's like, no. It's something very, you know, it's very much like, you know, when there's like, I would never call Din Djarin straight, but just for the sake of argument, when straight parents are like, hey, gay people, can you give me some tips on parenting my gay child? Like, that's Din with Ahsoka, but Din's not straight. Dear God, I would never say that. I personally identify very much with Kanan Jarrus, and so when you guys were talking about Rey and Luke, it's a very similar story to that in Rebels, where Kanan is very lost, and then he finds this new person who needs guidance, whatever, and like finds his own identity within that. Yeah, I think that's a very gay people thing.
I agree 100%. I was just really quick gonna say, I feel like the idea of the Jedi, and I don't mean this in the way it sounds, but I feel like the Jedi story is a very gay story. Like, in general, I do feel like the idea of the Jedi is just kind of queer. Like, it is very inherently, there are a lot of things in the Jedi Order and in the stories that we hear about Jedi that resonates a lot. And like Jess was talking about earlier with like the idea of found family and the idea that the connections that you have with people are thicker than, you know, like, or deeper than family sometimes. And I think something else, not to get a little like dark, but a lot of the ideas with attachment does relate to a lot of queer people who grew up thinking maybe like, hey, the way I'm feeling is not normal. And now, like, as me as like a queer adult can look back and say, oh, it was, I just didn't understand it at the time. But I know a lot of queer people who feel guilty for their feelings of attraction or lack thereof. And that manifests in ways that, like, you see stuff like you see Anakin struggle with attachment, and it's like, oh, that's not a character I should be maybe relating to. But then when you like think about it, it's like, okay, like that, obviously it's not a perfect analogy, but it's almost like seeing that on the screen does something to you where you're like, okay, it actually is making me think about it and think about why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling, and thinking about how other people are processing it and how my reaction is impacting others. And I think that the Jedi Order and its rules almost like have some sort of reflection of not only like elder teaching younger, but also like our ideas about attachment are different than other people's ideas of attachment. But yeah.
There is something, I mean, queer studies often focuses on this idea that the narrative of like magical person taken away to go with other magical people is inherently a queer story, because it provides a lot of queer children this concept of escaping where you are right now to go with people who are like you. And I do feel like the Jedi Order follows that. In the most current run of the X-Men comics, the way that that Iceman comes out is because Jean, a telepath, literally reads his mind and is like, hey, you're gay. And he's like, no, I'm not. She's like, I'm literally in your brain. You are gay. And the panel is literally him, and he looks to the side and he's like, what's happening right now? And then she like makes him realize that he's gay. I'm just saying that if that interaction ever happened in Star Wars, it would be Luke and Din. Luke would be like, Luke would be like, oh, you're gay. And Din's like, no, I'm not. He's like, I'm in your brain. Like, I know you are.
This is kind of related, but High Republic related. Imri fucking being like, oh my god, you're gay to someone.
The way that does canonically happen. Like, no,
Yeah.
this situation that you have described does happen canonically.
Oh,
There is a
yeah.
character who goes, you're gay. Like, literally, there is a part, I'm so sorry, this is a spoiler, but there is a part where a character does explain gayness to another.
But also, we are laughing, but also huge shout out to the High Republic and the High Republic authors for being like, actually, fuck it. We're putting actual gay people in this shit. Not to say that there aren't some other actual gays in Star Wars, like Dr. Aphra, all our lovely queers in the Padme books, etc., etc. But the High Republic, they were like, we're doing so many fruits, it's a fruit salad.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I wanted to talk about, was that I think why this analogy is, and I think it's, I'm not to say that it would be perfect otherwise, but I think that it is an imperfect analogy because it is a story written by, for all intents and purposes, a straight white cis man. Thanks, George, for putting your whole pussy into this, but also like hurting me deeply. I won't forgive you for the Tuscans. Anyways, but I think that there is something to say of the High Republic and like having people of marginalized identities, like writing these stories and that experience shading it. I think one of my critiques of the High Republic also happens to be in the representation department, though, sometimes, because the High Republic is great in the sense that it has like a lot of representation, but sometimes the representation just falls like a little flat, for me personally, where it's like, oh, you've mentioned that this person is gay, but like, what else? Also, sorry, I love Comac so much, but he is like 50 years old and he's like checking out a 22-year-old and you're like,
Yeah,
like,
that was a little,
Comac girl.
That was very
Also,
funny.
shout out to the Santeca husband.
You
Okay.
fuckers, you
Okay, no,
fuckers.
because I was about to bring them up actually when Mel was like, I don't really know how I feel about some of the representation. So to be clear, I've only read 2 of the High Republic books, but I've met the Santeca husbands. And when Jess and I were on Darth Chaco's podcast with TikTok user Always Fern, they brought up that like the Santeca husbands are a really weird representation because the text is like, they used to be like a really like buff burly mining family, but now they do things like home decor. And it's like, it's very weird because they sort of do it and I'm happy that it's there, but at the same time I'm like, interesting. And also I hadn't gotten to the fucking Comac part. I knew that
I'm so
Comac
sorry.
checked out. No, so here's the thing. I knew Comac checked out a dude, but in my head, I was like, oh, I'm sure that's handled really well.
He's
when it's
also
written. I also
not-
thought he was like 30 maybe, and now I'm like, that is an older
I think
man.
he's like in like his 40s to like early
So
50s.
he's in the age range of DILF categorization.
Yes,
That's
he is
cool.
a DILF.
I'll keep
but-
that in mind.
Comac,
Yeah, canonically
Comac
they
is a DILF.
say he's sexy, so he is a DILF.
I will say
Reath, I'm
Comac
so sorry
is
that I fucked your dad.
Reath Silas, girl, run.
Reath, quick, get your daddy straight.
Reath, get out.
Reath is like, can you
Claudia,
please,
who has not
Dad,
read
can
any
you,
of the High Republic books, I'm so sorry about this.
I'm still enjoying this.
Dad, can you please stop checking out people who are my age?
We could have a whole separate conversation on like bad queer representation, Star Wars, whatever. Like, the Aftermath books, My Enemy, why, he has, lesbian aunts, but like one of them has dark skin and you did compare her skin to literal dirt. What's up with that? I hate you, My Enemy. There are some things that I very much dislike. But then, we have like 4 canonically, asexual or aromantic characters, at least in Star Wars, which I'm like, oh, shout out. There are some strides that are quite good. And I'm also like, you know what? Fuck it. It's Star Wars. I'm okay with there being a little bit of fan service across the board with a lot of different kinds of identity. Does Star Wars do the thing of like, well, they put it in there, but was it exactly done well? No. I mean, the sequels, we know how that went with gender and race. Mess. So, that's going to be the issue. I always like to make the joke, especially with Marvel, where they're like, we're gonna have gay people, of like, oh boy, we're gonna have to stumble through all the mistakes that we made before. To get back to the original question, also, there's a lot you could say about queer baiting. With queer coding, for those who study media, one of the longest running pieces of queer coding in the Western canon of literature is Sherlock Holmes in general. And if you know anything about Thrawn, it is that he is Sherlock Holmes fan fiction. As a joke, but also seriously. Like, there's actual references to Sherlock Holmes with his stories. People joke about how with the canon Thrawn novels, how fucking gay it is. I have never read something and been like, especially in Star Wars, and been like, how much, it's really only just a step away from how fruity it is. Now, and there's just the like, damn, this shit's fucking gay. And then there's also like the stuff how we were talking about with Luke Skywalker of like, oh, there's an inherent queerness to this story. There's also queer coding for Aralani, a lot about found family, a lot about that kind of stuff. Is it problematic because he's a fascist? Yes. But I do want to say, like, of characters that are queer coded, both Thrawn and Eli, he's also neurodivergent coded, so there's shit there too. But of characters that are queer coded, they created a whole book and a whole character to be like, here's the biggest bad in Star Wars other than Darth Vader. We're going to create a character that teaches him the power of friendship and love. And then we're going to end the book with a powerful message about that, where he gives his diary to this other man. They're just dudes being guys. And I think about it every fucking day. Anyways, I don't know how much more queer coding that can be. I just had to say it.
I agree with them being queer coded, but I think, yeah, it is unintentional queer coding that almost touches the line, like toes the line of, is this queer baiting? But I don't think Timmy really understood how that this is like, I'm kind of homoerotic.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I do think that Timmy does just have a certain way with things sometimes, especially recently.
To be fair, from the 3 minutes of the Heir to the Empire that I listened to on audiobook before it got returned to the library, because I couldn't listen to it except for in 30-second increments, because every single detail I learned was a punch to the fucking throat.
Yeah.
That was pretty fruity too. And Thrawn wasn't even there.
I do like the idea of accidental fruit creator Timothy Zahn.
I hate to bring in another piece of media, but it does remind me of Supernatural, which is just exceedingly straight people.
So sorry for gasping. I thought I was muted.
Creating something extremely straight and then making it so exceedingly just fruity.
Homoerotic.
It boggles the mind. Like that's the level of queer that Thrawn is to me.
Normally I would boo you for bringing up a Supernatural reference, but I do actually believe that's kind of valid in this situation.
I guess what is still gonna boo you.
What is Thranto if not a nudist?
Thrawn is
so back. Never say that again.
The fact that fucking Castiel and Thrawn can be compared in that makes me ill.
The next question that we wanted to talk about today comes from Slama Lama 1, and they said, what queer non-canon ship do you think could genuinely become canon? I think that this is a great question, and I have the same answer that I had before, because I do think that we are going to see in the Ahsoka show, I'm almost positive that we're going to see Sabine and we're going to see the Rebels cast, because obviously, like, if she's looking for Thrawn, she's obviously looking for Ezra. Sabine's going to be with her. We're going to see the rest of the Rebels cast, at least in passing. I am hoping that they will at least mention them.
And their children?
Exactly. Here's my thing. I do think this is how we can get Mara Jade and Revan in the like in live action. And I don't even need to see them. I just think so. For those of you who don't know, Mara Jade and Revan are the canonized like Khalazeb children. So, but I do think, in all seriousness, I do think that Kallus and Zeb would be a really easy like thing for them to do, because I think most people who are hardcore fans of Rebels are like, yeah, that was definitely fruity. Like they did retire together on a planet, and I do think I would turn to the dark side if that was not the case. But I think like it would just be really easy to do. Like they could absolutely just be like, yeah, they just been chilling out, even just a throwaway line. Like I'm asking for the bare minimum. I'm entering my insane person era. Please.
I love the idea of canonized Khalazeb. However, this does confront us with the horrifying reality of having to see a live action Zeb.
I was literally just gonna say that.
Bestie,
No.
Zeb is maybe my favorite Star Wars character. How do you think I feel? How do you think I felt after playing the entire Jedi Fallen Order and then after finding out that Jaro Tapal is supposed to be a Lasat? I am so terrified for live action Zeb that I'm like, maybe they can just have Kallus be in the frame and Zeb's like, he's there, but the camera's always angled so you can't see him. Maybe it's always via holocall. I'm doing mental fucking gymnastics.
Ollie, are you being xenophobic to Lasat?
No, Star Wars is, and I'm trying to fix it.
So I'm just saying my solution to that is that every character just refers to Zeb, but we never hear or see him. So Kallus is like, earlier Zeb told me, or Ahsoka's like, Zeb had mentioned, but they never actually show him on screen.
He's having a Thrawn moment.
Not him having IBS. Let me fix this all for you and just say his back is always to the camera, so you only see that big old cake.
The idea of
Zeb's fucking
live action
canon ass.
Zeb ass, and that's it. I love that. I also love the idea that Kallus is like, babe, you know you can turn around, right? And he's like, no, I cannot.
He's like, why would I turn around? I don't need to pan to the camera. This isn't a show. I do like the idea of Kallus being the only one who can break the fourth wall.
I also just love the idea though of Kallus, like Kallus can break the fourth wall, but fully everyone's like, why is Zeb always turned around? And Kallus is like, I just love staring at my husband's fat ass. And that's how they get canonized.
I agree with Ollie, where my first thought of like any characters that could possibly become like canon, my first thought was also like Zeb and Kallus, because I was just like, I'm not sure. Like, I'd love for Eli and Thrawn to become canonized, but I don't think Timothy Zahn would do that. Like, he is the creator of fucking Mara Jade and Luke, like that ship. So I'm just like, I don't think he'd pander to us queers. Another ship I think could become canon, has potential, is the ship and the characters that I'd like to say that I think I am the first one to like discover these characters before Wikipedia put them up, but it is Bolo and Ketch.
Yes,
them becoming a canonized couple.
I do like,
because like
Flix and Orca,
they're all over each other.
And the amount of like gay people have in the Bad Batch. We have Tarkin, we have the Dianoga, and we have Ketch and Bolo, and obviously Hunter, who's a lesbian,
and Sid.
And Sid, of course. I'm so sorry. I forgot her.
Yeah, don't forget our queer elder.
And we have Trans Omega.
Oh my gosh.
Wait, do you guys think that Luke and Sid have met up at like the queer elder convention for Star Wars?
The idea, oh my god, I did just have the idea of Sid being friends with Qui-Gon when they were both young.
I can't even deal with this because that could truly be true. So yes, my first thought is always Kallazeb, because I'm like, okay, I'm thinking about the projects that are coming, but also we do have a lot of projects in the Empire era. So we have the Bad Batch, we have Andor, whatever. So there's a lot of possibility there. I just thought of like, oh, Baze and Chirrut, who are like literally like a hair's breadth away from being canon already. We see them, I believe, in the Guardians. We have the Guardians of the Wills manga, book, whatever, and like if we saw them in the Bad Batch, let's say, or we saw them in Andor, we probably wouldn't see them in Andor, but like, you know, if we saw them in the Bad Batch or something, like they can make them actually gay. Again, they pretty much already are. I don't know what the fuck else they are. Just guys being dudes. I think also, you know, because of realities in the industry, I don't think this is going to happen. But I mean, Omega is a hair's breadth away from being canon trans. If they were to just be like, oh yeah, you know, she just said, yeah, I'm a girl. Like, however they would choose to do that in a Star Warsy way, I don't know how. They would need to do it with some tact, and I don't think Star Wars could. But I think, you know, of possibilities of things actually happening, a Baze and Chirrut situation, an Omega situation, probably Callus and Zeb. I think the thing keeping Callus and Zeb would probably be, number one, everybody having to know an exceeding amount about Rebels characters, and number two, live action Lasat. You said Eli and Thrawn, but we've talked before about like what would send us to the dark side happening in Star Wars. Yes, maybe Timmy wouldn't make Eli and Thrawn canon, but let's say Thrawn is on screen and we all want Eli to be on screen. Yes, would I turn to the dark side if they had either of them interested in a woman? Yes, I would. If they made Eli and Thrawn a thing on screen, it would be upsetting because it would be like, we did it, guys, but they're fascists. I mean, unless they became rebels or something, whatever.
I mean,
I don't know.
Eli would be with the Chiss ascendancy, so
Yeah, that's true. That's very sexy of him.
I do think it's very funny, the idea that Ahsoka's been looking for Thrawn this whole time, and then she like runs into Eli at like a barn. He's like, yeah, we found Thrawn like 5 years ago. I don't know what. But I did want to say something about Omega really quick. I think with Omega, what's very funny is she's almost like Schrodinger's trans person, where it's like they've said that she is an exact clone of Jango Fett, unaltered. So it's like, well, if she has the exact same DNA as Jango Fett, who we assume is a cisgender man, there's no reason that she wouldn't be trans. Like, I'm not saying that as like, oh, she's trans, like when I'm headcanoning her, like literally if she is identifying as a girl, as a woman, and she is a direct genetic copy of Jango Fett, like she is trans, even if that wasn't what they intended. But I'm not saying that they are getting credit for putting the work in, because I think the chances of it being unintentional are not like, I don't know how they could have a writer's room with as many people as they have in it and have no one be like, hey guys, are we not realizing? My one fear is that they will have a moment later where they'll be like, if you're an exact copy of Jango Fett, why are you a girl? And she's like, oh, it's just born different. But I don't think that's going to happen. I'm not making fun of people with that accent. I'm so sorry. There's so much there. I'm like, do we think, like, I can't imagine that was unintentional, but I do worry that they're going to retroactively be like, oh, just in case you were worried.
No, absolutely. And I think that is a very indicative of like hiring queer people to be part of your writer's room, to be like, hey, because you don't even have to be like trans to clock that, right? Like that's just something you can be like, yeah, hello. But I think a lot of Cishet, that's how I say it. I'm so sorry if you guys just had to hear me say Cishet instead of Cishet.
That sounds like the name of a Star Wars character.
Anyways, I was gonna say, I think if there is to be like canonized queer coded people in Star Wars, and I mean, I don't even know how queer coded this character is as much as it is me just wanting lesbian representation in this goddamn series. Here's some not minor, kind of major spoilers for Out of the Shadows. In Out of the Shadows, we're introduced to Chancey Yarrow, who is like kind of has this weird relationship with Lorna D. It's once again not super, I don't know if there's a whole lot of textual evidence to support like Lorna D being queer coded, besides the fact that I find her very sexy and so I'm like MILF lesbian, because she does unfortunately kiss Panetta on the mouth. But I just like the idea of Chancey Yarrow and Lorna D being mean lesbians, and I know that plays into a lot of terrible stereotypes, but sometimes you just want representation, and sometimes that is what is provided to you. Justina Ireland, I'm begging you. I'm on my hands and knees.
The other thing I think that is very powerful about them is that Celestri, who is Chansey's daughter, does call Lorna her aunt. And that's a very like lesbian thing to do.
Yeah.
Like, this is mommy's your friend. And it's like, well, what do I call her? It's like, she's your aunt. Like,
yeah,
that
just
feels
call her
very
Auntie Lorna.
Literally.
when is Syl gonna say Auntie Lorna to one of the Jedi and then be like, the huh?
The
Auntie
who? Because I do think that she is the eye. So the idea of Silvestri being like, yeah, my aunt, and they're like, the eye of the Nihil? Yeah, anyways.
I do like that a lot.
If you're talking about sapphic and lesbian representation, I know we've been talking a lot about men, whatever. If we're going to talk about queer-coded people, I would like to take a second to talk about Sabine. Like, there is nothing, like, if she's like every lesbian stereotype there is, that they were just like, yeah, she dyes her hair a different color, she's got as close as we're getting to an undercut, and her girlfriend has an undercut, and she's got very colorful borderline lesbian flag color Mandalorian armor, and she's got mommy issues.
I was just gonna say, and she has mommy issues.
She's got some real
like,
family issues with her family.
Here's the other thing too, and I think this is a very like lesbian specific thing, but her mommy issues do stem very specifically from not like fulfilling the family like legacy in the way that is desired. And I think for a lot of like specifically like people who were raised and socialized as women and have like the ability to like bear children, I think that a lot of people go through that same struggle with their family of being like, well, I'm expected to do XYZ. And while that is not exactly, obviously it's not exactly Sabine's narrative, it's similar in the way that it's like she is saying like, I am going to subvert my family's expectations and I am going to do what is right for me, despite what that does, even though I know it is going to be better in the long run for all of us.
We just know this about the field of animation. There's a lot of queers in there, so somebody along the line in development, in character design, whatever, I see you, the queer and or queerza, who helped design Sabine and make her who she is. And I see you, and I know what you did, and I thank you. And I think you could have a whole separate conversation about queer coding specifically in animation, because, and obviously there's characters design that goes into live action characters, of course, but in animation especially, because nothing's an accident. Every frame is a choice. So, you know, there's always some queer person who is like, yeah, I put that shit in on purpose. And so I always think about that with the animated characters, where I'm like, yeah, I don't know what else you fucking thought that was gonna be. So I think about that with Sabine every time. I'm like, what the fuck else do you think she's gonna be?
Welcome to Fantastic. It's a segment where I have found some of the most some of these fan casts are pretty valid, but for the most part they are just kind of off the shits. I unfortunately this time around, because I was like, okay, like this is gonna be an episode where we're talking about gay people, I wanted it to like have some flavor there, and unfortunately when it comes to Buck Wild fan casts, naming a woman is very hard for Star Wars fans. So these are unfortunately all male characters. But are you guys ready to get into this?
Let's get into it, yeah.
Let's get into it, yeah. Let's start. I'm sorry, I just saw the one I have lined up. Okay, are you guys ready? I'm gonna name a series of actors: Tom Holland, Logan Lerman, Daniel Radcliffe, Dane DeHaan, and Freddie Highmore.
Ezra?
No.
Luke Skywalker.
Yes.
Okay, Ollie, literally, you and I had the same thought. The minute that they were like Tom Holland, I was like, oh, duh. It's Luke.
Yeah, I was like,
Tom Holland. I'm so sorry to Tom Holland, but him playing Luke Skywalker feels homophobic.
Yeah.
No, I thought Luke Skywalker, and then I was like, oh, Logan Lerman? Yeah, maybe Ezra Bridger if they're like, oh, we want to make him white.
I love Wezra.
I'm sorry,
okay.
the idea of Tom Holland as Luke Skywalker is making me feel insane because that would take his twinkiness to like a homophobic level.
I feel like it's kind of hateful that you guys have not acknowledged Daniel Radcliffe's Luke Skywalker.
Well, no, because here's the
I'm
thing.
not
that
thinking
one, I feel
about
like
it.
that
He'd
one's kind
kill
of
that.
valid. Like, I don't
Yeah,
hate that.
honestly, I think he could embody that.
I wouldn't be,
two
let's just say
chosen
He's
this.
ones.
taking over franchise media one twink at a time.
Let's just say this. I
Not to
wouldn't
call
be
Harry Potter
mad-
a twink. So sorry. That is a child.
Is Harry Potter a twink? Discuss. I wouldn't be mad if they were like Daniel Radcliffe is going to be like young Luke Skywalker. I also wouldn't be thrilled about it though either.
So true, besties. Are you
So
ready
sorry
the
for
next
like
one?
one.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I wanted that to be like a warm up as we kind of get into this. I feel like it's gonna escalate. So next, Simon Pegg, Hank Azaria, Bill Hader, Matt Smith, Martin Freeman, David Thewlis. He plays Lupin in Harry Potter. And then I have there's one more, but I think it'll give it away if I say it. So I just want to hear you guys' initial guess.
Is it Obi-Wan Kenobi when he's old?
No,
What
it is
era?
not.
What era?
All of them.
Obi-Wan?
No.
No, I just asked if it was
Is it a
Obi-Wan
Jedi?
when he got on the
No.
beach old. Okay,
Is
so
it
it's not a Jedi. Is it
An
Maul?
Imperial?
No. No.
Is it non-human?
Yes.
Zeb?
No. What is he in the prequels?
Oh,
Oh,
shit.
they're in the
Is it
prequels?
Jar Jar?
It's not Jar Jar Binks.
Is it Yoda?
No, it
it's
is not Yoda.
Maul?
No,
Yeah,
it's
Are
not
these,
Maul.
okay,
Yeah, wait,
question. Are
wait,
these
wait,
all
the
people who are
idea-
queer coded?
This is a
In your
queer-coded
opinion?
character. Yeah.
Is it
yeah.
a droid? Oh
Yes,
my god.
it is.
Is
Side
it
note.
C-3PO?
It is C-3PO, and here's the one that I knew was going to give it away. John Mulaney.
Oh,
John, okay,
I'm
John
sorry,
Mulaney.
but the idea, the fucking
powerful.
thought of the guy who played Remus Lupin being Yoda is
David
driving
Thewlis
me
alone.
Oh my god.
I do have to
Um,
say, we did not discuss the queerness of the droids and how R2 and 3PO are the original Star Wars
Or are we
gays.
going to?
Listen, here, no, I will give my really quick thing. I do think obviously R2 and C3PO are in love. Chopper and AP5 are in love. I think that Gonki and AZ could have a beautiful love story. They just need
Absolutely.
time. Thank you, Klaudia. I appreciate it. We're in
I
solidarity
did.
here.
I did see a TikTok today from one of our listeners, Mackenzie, that did say, AP5's story is the same.
I saw that.
Is the same as Eli Vanto's, and I want you all to think about that. His boyfriend is he's good at math, and his boyfriend's also a war criminal. Think about it.
Can't with
Do you
that.
guys,
Can we
do you
please?
guys think? Do you
No,
think-
no, no, no.
I know what you're gonna say, and the answer is
They've
yes.
explored each other's bodies.
Anyways,
they've
no.
explored each other's
okay,
stomp ports.
guys, I have some more, and they're getting more and more fun. Are you ready? Matt Damon.
Force from
That's the
spirit.
whole. Is it okay? Is it a non-human character?
Yes.
Okay, so it has to be a
Jar
homophobic
Jar?
character.
No.
Stop asking if it's Jar Jar.
It's not Jar Jar.
Are they a droid or just an alien?
Just an alien.
Matt Damon is Thrawn. Sent
No. No.
Kit Fisto.
Nope.
Plo Koon?
Wait,
No.
my first instinct was Newt Gunray says a lot
I
about
know.
his
Okay, wait, guys, think if it's Matt Damon, the character has to be homophobic. So
No. Here's the thing, though. No, this character
Qui-Gon
is
Jinn.
Is it Tarkin?
No.
they're
Thrawn?
not human. They're
No.
not human. We're dumb.
What era?
What era? He's in the prequels in the original trilogy.
Oh, he's in both.
Yeah.
Is it Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Is it
No.
Yularen?
No, it is not.
No, he said
Is
he's
it
non-human.
Uncle Owen?
No.
Oh, fuck, Uncle Owen is
He
human.
said he was non-human, right?
Non-human.
Is it Thrawn?
No.
Zeb?
No.
He's in
Oh,
the
wait, I
original.
already
Guys,
asked
come
if
on.
Matt
He's in the
Damon is
prequels and the originals. Is
He's
he
in
in the
the-
movies? Or is that
Yes.
just the time period?
Yoda.
He's in the original trilogy movie. That's the only movie he's in, I think, is The Empire Strikes Back, I think.
Admiral Akbar!
No. No, not Admiral Akbar.
Wait, so
Are
that's
they
the only movie he's in.
force-sensitive,
Is
or
he,
am I-
No, he's
is
not
he in the
Force
Clone
sensitive.
Wars?
The character is, I believe, is he in the Clone Wars? Yes, he is. He's in a few episodes.
General Grievous didn't appear in Empire. Right?
No,
Wait,
he
so
did not.
he's not a
General
Jedi.
Grievous.
He's not
Talk
human.
no.
Talk
But
about how
here's the
shitty
thing.
cameos are. When General Grievous showed up, it really took me out of it in Empire Strikes Back.
I think Jess would really appreciate this answer. I think all of us would, frankly, but I know Jess specifically has an attachment to a character that this character is adjacent to.
Bosk!
Yes.
No.
Matt
Damon
Damon
as
as boss
boss.
is making me feel.
Also, okay.
weird.
This is a little lore fact, but I love Bosk so much. He is probably one of my favorite like non-human characters for some reason.
This next one, we're once again ramping it up. I can't decide which one do I want to be the finale. I think I've decided. So this next one, Logan Learman, Mina Massoud, Zayn Malik, Eddie Redmayne, Taron Egerton, Robert
Moomin.
Sheehan, and it's not Ezra Bridger.
Thank God. I could not imagine. Okay. Oh my
Okay,
God. Wait.
What era?
Is this character human?
Yes, human
Are they
and
actually white in whatever media they're in, or are they being whitewashed for this fan cast?
I can't tell you that information.
Are they an animated character?
No,
Oh, have they been in live action before?
no.
Are they book?
Yes.
Eli Vanto!
Yes. So I would like for us to kind of circle back to Zayn Malik as Eli Vanto. I feel like you guys really did not think about
Yeah.
Zayn Malik as Eli Vanto.
Can you read those names again?
Oh yeah, of course. So we have Logan Learman.
Oh, you know what? If we're whitewashing it, I'll let that one slide.
Zayn Malik, Eddie Redmayne.
Eddie Redmayne. Also, he's the wrong age. It depends
Eddie-
on what age.
I
feel
would
like-
like Eddie Redmayne to play Eli Vanto, but only if he does it in the same voice he used for Jupiter Ascending.
Please no. Please cease and desist.
Eddie Redmayne as Eli Vanto, I think might be again like we've talked about
Joker
stuff that'll send us
origin
to the dark
story.
side. I really do think like I would start fighting.
I would become
think I
violent.
would
Are you
kill
ready
you.
for the finale?
That wasn't the finale.
There's something
No.
worse.
I'm so prepared for this. I'm so
Okay.
ready.
Okay. So the first one I'm gonna say, I know for a fact had to be a joke because I was looking on mycast.io, the website I find most of these fan casts, and I was like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. But just the fact that it exists on that website where it's like this character played by Adam Sandler. So Adam Sandler, Kevin Bacon, Mads Mikkelsen, George Clooney, Giancarlo Esposito. Did I already say Joaquin Phoenix? Joaquin Phoenix. Martin Freeman. Christopher Lee. Jeff Bridges. Hugh Laurie. And finally, Aaron Paul, aka Jesse from Breaking Bad.
This better not be Thrawn.
It is not Thrawn.
Is this
Is he a
human?
character who's
Human, yes.
have they been in live action?
Yes.
Oh no.
Have they been animated before?
Yes.
Christopher Lee's.
I know! They've named not one,
Yeah,
not
Giancarlo
two, but
Esposito.
they've named 3 actors who have already been in Star Wars.
What
Giancarlo
era?
Esposito, Mads
be
Mikkelsen,
clear-
and Christopher Lee.
To be clear, you are so Adam Sandler is the one that you're like, there's no fucking way, right?
Yeah.
Not
Okay,
the fact that
question,
Sir Christopher
question.
Lee has passed on. It's Adam Sandler that's the one that's not believable.
Yoda? Is it a Jedi?
No.
Again!
It is Will Huff Tarkin. As
No.
played by the following, once again.
Adam Sandler!
Let me just rephrase this. Aaron Paul, as in Jesse from Breaking Bad. Hugh Laurie. Jeff Bridges. George Clooney. Adam Sandler. Mads Mikkelsen. Giancarlo Esposito. Christopher Lee. Kevin Bacon. Joaquin Phoenix. Martin Freeman. These were all fan casts I found on my cast.
I'm becoming
Honestly,
a fucking
I will
Joker.
say Giancarlo Esposito as Tarkin is actually kind of cool.
I mean, he's already
Like, that's
playing
actually
an
very
Imperial
powerful.
Moff and he's fucking killing
I would
it.
Listen.
like to suggest something because here's the thing. I actually do want them to remake Rogue One, but they have Mads Mikkelsen play Tarkin. And
He'd
want them to
just be like, they're
I want them
reshoots,
to
right?
have no, because I want
Wait.
Krennic to fully be like, hello, Grand Moff Tarkin, Galen Erso is dead. And then Tarkin turns around and just is Mads Mikkelsen.
I do like the idea of
Krennic is like, hey, wait a minute.
wait, Rogue One where everyone is Mads Mikkelsen except for Krennic.
The idea of Mads Mikkelsen, Jin Erso
Muppet
played
singing.
by Mads Mikkelsen is fucking making me insane.
The idea of Baze and Chirrut both being played by Mads
Ew.
Mikkelsen.
K2SO as played by Mads Mikkelsen. Discuss.
CGI Leia as played by Mads Mikkelsen.
So yeah, that was my finale. I still have some Buckwild fan casts that I'm so excited to share with you one day, but those were what I was gonna bring to
Here's
the
my
face.
What the
fan cast for the
fuck?
evening. I would like to fan cast Marcion Rowe, and I think that he should be played. I think that Marcion Rowe should be played by Anna Kendrick.
So
Fuck
I would just like to say that Noah has been barraging me with texts this evening describing a Nihil Pitch Perfect AU.
What about it? Well, that's so funny because my first thought was Twilight. Because I did think of in this situation, I do like the idea of Avar pulling up to Starlight to work with Elzar, and he's like, Avar, where the hell have you been, Loca?
Throughout this
I hate it
podcast,
here.
I've been psychically damaging Mel by describing a scenario in which, after Kusav's death, Marcion is like, I need to do a funeral for this guy because I care a lot about him. And Lorna's like, yeah, sure. And then Mike lowers down from the ceiling, and Lorna's like, wait, no. And then Marcion, apropos of nothing, starts doing an a cappella version of The One That Got Away with no background track
In another
whatsoever.
life,
It's just him.
I could be
hate
your
it
girl.
And the entire time, fucking Lorna's like, what the fuck? And at the end, he like does like a dramatic bow and closes his eyes, and she holds up a sign that's like, please clap.
Now it's time for everyone's favorite segment, Name That Ship, which is, the segment where our hosts bring some fun fanfics, and the others have to guess, based off of the tags that they're gonna read, what the ship is. And again, we want to reiterate that this is not trying to be mean, because we respect people who write fanfics, and we just thought these specific fanfics were fun and interesting because they tell a crazy story in the tags. And yeah, don't go searching for them and be mean to these fanfic authors. Yeah, this doesn't have that many tags, and it is like, it's not a romantic ship. I just want to say that first. It is not romantic at all. So without further ado, this is called And Their Teeth Shine Like Pearls. So it is character A and character B, because again, it is not romantic. Character A, character B, alternate universe dragons, in which character B is a sad mecha space dragon. Dragons are powered by their sacrifices. So dragon character B, dragon Sheev Palpatine, sacrifice character A, canon to AU translation, soul-bound, non-romantic bond. Sorry, it was soul bond. I can't read. Soul bond, non-romantic soul bond. It's not like that, and I'm not gonna read the last tag.
Is this Maul and Obi-Wan?
No.
I will say I have seen this fan fiction, but I cannot for the life of me remember who it is. But I know I've seen this
Are
before.
either of the characters force sensitive?
Yeah.
What era?
What are both of them?
Yeah. The era is original trilogy.
But it's not romantic, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of them is force sensitive, or no, one of them is force
Wait,
sensitive.
is there the force in this universe? It's a dragon AU.
Both
so
of them
like,
are
what the
force
rules?
sensitive,
Or
correct?
they were originally force sensitive before the AU.
Yeah, sorry. They were force sensitive before dragons, I guess.
And it's not Obi-Wan and Maul?
Nope.
No, it's
Is
original
Obi-Wan
trilogy.
one of them?
Nope.
Is Vader one of them?
Yes.
Is Luke
Anakin?
What?
Is it Luke?
Yeah, it is Luke. It is Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader.
As
dragons. The last tag was father-son relationship.
I mean, good for them. I'm happy they
Yeah.
were able to repair their broken
I mean, except for the
family
part,
via dragon AU.
except for the part where I do believe
Luke is
Luke is getting
sacrificed.
sacrificed to Vader.
Oh well, I
I
mean,
love How to Train Your Dragon.
You want the summary?
I would love it.
I would love it.
This his father's presence has been calling to him, covetous and hungry, and now the pull grows ever stronger. Vader's malice cocoons his fleet like a magnetic field. It's no good. Luke feels like a compass, a spinning needle in the Force. I guess the Force is here, actually. Wow, they're dragons with the Force.
Okay, I am also
Needle.
reading. I am also reading a fic where dragons
Well,
exist within the.
There's actually
the
a
Star
lot
Wars
of fucking
universe right
dragon
now.
AUs.
There are a lot of dragon AUs.
Yeah,
It's yeah, anyway, a spinning needle in the Force guiding him where he knows he needs to go. All dragons need a sacrifice, even if Vader is a dragon like no other. Luke is a gift, and this is part 1 of
This
some
dragon's
Dragonverse
like
fix.
no other.
No.
I want you to know. Anyway,
damn, that's very powerful.
I
Yeah.
just thought about Sad Mecha Dragon was very funny to me.
that I think is really what made me be like, I think I've seen this before.
Here's the problem. Do you want to know something that kind of makes me feel insane? Is that I also had that similar feeling, except for I was like, okay, I do think I've seen like a Thrawn Eli fic that's something like this.
Oh, there is. I
Yeah.
saw it when I was
yeah.
trying to find this one again.
Besties, I hate to tell you this. I don't hate to because I think it's a very creative outlet. There are so many fics where they make characters dragons, and at this point I'm like, yeah, I respect that.
One
Also,
I'm
the
I
reading.
did see
idea-
one where Snoke was a dragon and BB-8 was a magical goat.
Oh, I'm obsessed
One,
with that.
the one that I'm reading right now, the whole like backstory lore for like Obi-Wan's home planet is that his entire family are shape-shifting dragons. So there's that. It's like
Dragon
deep.
tails.
Maybe that's why
dragon
Qui-Gon-
tails.
Wait, not dragon
That's why-
tails, Obi-Wan.
That's why Qui-Gon was a little apprehensive to take him on as his Padawan. He's like, look, I'd take him, but he's a fucking dragon. I don't know how to behave. I don't know how to
Also,
fix
Qui-Gon
that.
being racist towards dragons.
He's like, I don't know how to help a child
No.
molt.
No, in the lore of this, it's like if you were, they don't have a lot of force sensitive kids, but if you are born force sensitive and then you get taken away by the Jedi, like they're the only ones who are born who like can't shapeshift, don't become like a Selkie, a dragon, a centaur, or something like that. So Obi-Wan is just normal.
The dragon AU of Obi-Wan's home planet just makes him sound like Chiss when it
Besties,
comes to force sensitivity.
I'm so sorry, but this is the plot of Barbie Fairytopia. Can we please move on?
Okay, anyways, I would like to present my fic. It's not necessarily like a palate cleanser, but it is something that I am actually very excited to bring to this table, mostly because it is written by one of my favorite writers on AO3. I think that they just consistently deliver, and I'm really afraid that Ollie is going to know this one. The tags are very vague, and I'm going to try my best to read the description without it giving away the ship. But let's get into it. Tags are: lesbians in space, fluff and humor, fluff, short and sweet, freeform, female-centric, alternate universe canon divergent. There's a planet that I can't name without it giving it away. Romance, and just a sweet little thing I thought of.
Also, Mel, I have read this fic before.
Me too. I love. I
Okay,
actually really
wait.
am obsessed with this fic.
So,
good.
are any of them like force sensitive?
Neither
Yeah,
of them
can you
are
read
force
us the
sensitive.
tags?
Tags once again, real quick. Lesbians in space, fluff and humor, fluff, short and sweet, freeform, female-centric, alternate universe, canon divergence, planet name that'll give it away, romance, just a sweet little thing I thought of. Recently widowed character B has been having issues with her moisture evaporators. She goes to character A for help. Character A doesn't repair farm equipment as a rule, but she might be able to make an exception just this once.
Pelimoto and Baru White Sun.
Yes!
So just to be clear, my immediate thought was also them. So I'm glad that we were able to one-shot that.
Was
because
I?
Fluff-
Yeah.
Low-key-
I around
Low-key,
you
I'm kind
and
of
Ollie were
behind this.
talking about this.
I
I feel
was
like you
thinking
and Ollie
Shmi
told me about this.
Skywalker.
Well, because here's the thing. In our grand polycule chart, we do have Baru connected to Pelly that we did talk about. But this was before I had read this.
So I will
I
also
just
say,
I feel like I've heard this from one of you before.
Mel,
Are you okay?
I love how you're like, I can't say the planet name because it'll give it away, but you did say like water reclaimer or whatever. And I was like, oh,
It's
Duris.
called a water evaporator. Fake
Also,
fan.
do you want to know how I perceive queer people in Star Wars? When Mel was like, oh, there's a planet, I can't say it. I'm like, oh, it's probably Mandalore.
Billy Lurked, bestie, I'm obsessed with you. You wrote one of the best fan fictions of all time about Boba Fett killing the Sarlacc pit with his lesbian bestie, Fennec
Can
Shand.
you fucking send that to me?
No, this author, I've been obsessed with them. Mel talked about them in a live once, and I've been obsessed with them ever since.
Bestie, I'm gonna need a link.
Also followed by, they did write a fan fiction that is Lando Calrissian / Boba Fett.
Saw that.
Damn.
Okay, no, because can
That's-
one of you guys just like drop this person's
I
name?
am right now.
I-
Billy
I'm
Lurked, I'm
dropping
Give us a
obsessed with you.
link.
I'm guys, I'll have it. Here, don't worry. I got you covered. It's in the chat.
They were also the one who wrote the fucking Infus Nest
Yeah,
Fennec
the
Shand
NC Next
fic.
Fennec one.
They keep feeding us.
And this next Fennec, what?
that was on the
we-
podcast!
Wait, it's the same person?
Yeah!
My
It's all
God,
connected.
a visionary.
So I have one that I am very excited to do. It was sent to me by a listener, Dins Beskar on TikTok. So this is rated E for explicit. Character A/character B. The tags are character A, character B. Different character mentioned. I'm not going to say who this other character that is mentioned is because I think it will give it away. Character A leaves the Jedi Order. Pre-Clone Wars. Pirate character A. Developing relationships. If this seems a bit disjointed, I apologize. Alien sex. Character B tops. Bottom character A. And the summary is character A falls into a relationship with character B after leaving the Jedi Order.
Is character A Obi-Wan?
It is not Obi-Wan.
Is this like, okay, is this a gay relationship?
It is two men.
So, are they both human? No, you said
One
is
is
an alien.
human.
Is the alien character the one that left the Jedi Order?
No.
Is the alien character Kit Fisto, Plo Koon?
No, the alien one is not the one who left the Jedi Order.
Oh
Is
wait,
the
yeah,
alien character Hondo Ohnaka?
It is Hondo Ohnaka.
But the other character's not Obi-Wan.
It is not Obi-Wan.
Mace Windu.
It is not Mace Windu. This is
Qui-Gon
pre-Clone
Jinn?
Wars.
Wait.
It is
Qui-Gon
Qui-Gon Jinn
Jinn.
slash Hondo.
Oh no! Wait,
so
and
who's
they
the
said
top-
Qui-Gon
who's
was
the
the
top?
bottom in that relationship.
The bottom Qui-Gon.
I
The
appreciate that
character
no
who
one
was
I
mentioned is Obi-Wan.
What did you say?
The character is mentioned who I said I wouldn't say before is Obi-Wan.
Read the
Obi-Wan
summary,
girl,
bestie.
right?
Yeah, so the summary is Qui-Gon Jinn falls into a relationship with Hondo Ohnaka after leaving the Jedi Order.
Hey, I really
Wow.
can't with that.
I'm
It's
kind of
kind of-
obsessed with this because like I
Kind
don't
of powerful.
no, like I don't think it's inherently bad. I just think it's extremely powerful. I think it's very
I think
funny.
it's very, very
Like-
funny. I would also love though if like Obi-Wan, like Qui-Gon leaves the Order and Obi-Wan doesn't. And years later, Obi-Wan runs into them and it's like, hey, what the fuck?
Yeah. Oh my god, the idea of instead of in the Phantom Menace like dying, Qui-Gon goes off and becomes a pirate, and then the episode where Hondo kidnaps Dooku, Anakin, and Obi-Wan, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I got some Jedi," and Qui-Gon walks in, he's like, "Hey, family reunion."
I can't do with
Also-
this love.
I didn't see what the title was. The title is "Eye of the Storm."
Nar.
Mark?
Mark?
Yeah.
My friend Mark?
This was
Okay,
written by Marsha.
Alexa, play the one that got away by Katy Perry.
Anyway, that made me lose brain cells, or maybe gain them. I don't know. Thank you so much for joining us this week for RuPaul's Pod Race Post Bad Batch. Our episodes usually drop on Sundays for updates, Star Wars news, more cursed shit. You can follow us on social media at RuPaul's Pod Race on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Sometimes we stream on TikTok, so be on the lookout. And we put increasingly unhinged memes on Twitter, you get an extra point if you can guess which one of us is the person tweeting at any given time. If you really love the show, please rate and review our show on Apple Podcasts and also on Podchaser. Even if you don't use Apple Podcasts as your podcatcher, if you just pop in there and give us a rate and review, it's very helpful. We love hearing from you. What do you want to see from us? Until Visions, until Book of Boba Fett. Now that the Bad Batch is on hiatus, you can send us a question in our TikTok Q&A. You can tweet at us, DM us on Instagram, send us an email at RuPaul'sPodRace@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for bearing with us in our brave new post-Bad Batch world. And may the Force be with you. And don't crip it up.
Waka
Waka
waka.
waka.